Hey guys, welcome back to FloridaMan40k podcast. I am Daniel Smith, impulse buyer of armies. I have with me James Prescott, really hyped for Warhammer for a few days, and let's hope that lasts.
Oh, it'll never last. That's my whole shtick.
And your friend and mine, at least one of the three best 40k players on this podcast right now, John Lennon.
I am, in fact, one of the three best Warhammer players on this podcast.
At the very least.
At a minimum. So I cannot argue. Well, we're back. 9th edition is here. I'm excited.
Yeah. Suffice it to say, I have overdone it a little bit in my excitement, which we will get into in a little while.
That's impossible. Cannot be too excited about 9th edition. Trust me, I tried.
Yeah. So, today, instead of doing, which we're always kind of disjointed anyway, but instead of doing like, here's a cool topic, and then here's another cool topic, we've all been just hobbying and like into the hobby a lot this last week or so. So we're going to just kind of not exactly ramble on, but we're basically just going to have a conversation, and it'll last for like an hour or so, and you guys are going to listen, and we're going to cover some good stuff. It depends on how the conversation goes. So, yeah, super organized. Let's do this.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're just gonna like talk about kind of like what we're working on, like what we're getting excited. Like we talked so much about like the build up to 9th, and well, the build up to 9th is over. We are now just playing 9th edition. So we're gonna talk about what we are each working on, what we're excited to try out, and maybe we'll talk about the missions a little bit. We'll see how long we ramble for. No promises on literally anything.
Yeah, all you're going to get is our three voices. Anything after that, toss up.
Ooh, maybe some static in the background. I don't know how good our audio is this episode. I just got a new
Perfect.
headset. There's a warning just in case I can't clean it up.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What if they
Jimmy's-
can't hear the warning?
What?
Then it's going to just be terrible. What I was going to say, though, is Jimmy is in the process of upgrading computer, getting headset, different things going. So that's why it's been inconsistent the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I've broken 2 headsets in the past, 6 days. Just because, I don't know, I'm starting to believe that I just have an abnormally large head. And in response, I'm now working on, the shittiest microphone ever. So, we're just going to see how it goes.
Love it.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are
We ready to dive in?
Always.
Yeah.
Let's
Let's do this. Who wants to start? Jimmy, you first.
Hey, it's me, ya boy, Jimmy, back at it again with the 40k. So there are a few things that I was wanting to do. I know in previous episodes we had talked about, with at least what we know of 9th, we were trying to accommodate the previous Ridge Runner list, which had several different things, exocrines and things like that. Now that we actually know the rules, that has taken yet another turn. I think we'll talk about with John, because he's playing, I'm basically just copy-pasting his list while I figure out how the new edition works. But the goal, in short, is to play Tyranids with a mix of Gene Stealer Cult, which was kind of what I was leaning toward by the end of what we all knew as 8th edition, before all this COVID stuff happened. So that's what I'm working on right now. I ordered some more Neurothropes, which is a new twist, and those should actually be here at some point today. If my dog randomly starts barking during the podcast, it's because my mail was delivered, and I'll be putting those together. And then I am secondarily working on Space Marines for this season. So right now, first thing, because I own everything, are the Gene Stealer Cult and Tyranids. Whatever options would be best this season. And then for the inevitable nerf, either because they just get outclassed by the newest codex, or based on whatever chapter approved stuff comes out near the beginning of 9th in action, I'm assuming that Tyranids are going to get shat upon, as they always do. And then I'll have the Space Marines.
It seems to be a tradition, so just kind of having a closet Space Marine army is pretty much always a good idea.
Yeah, painted in my Buzz Lightyear scheme, so it's still something to be excited about.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what you took to LVO, and it looked super cool.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see you paint some Indominus units in that same scheme.
Speaking of
Yeah.
which, I'm currently putting those together, which has made me even more hyped for the Space Marine part.
Is it because the Indominus models are so freaking cool?
They're so awesome. I love every part of it, and I'm not sure if we want to do it right now while each of us is giving our hot take of new armies, but I definitely want to talk about the Indominus box tonight. I think the whole thing, the whole shebang, was an absolutely great move by Games Workshop for a new edition.
I guess we'll round back to that after Dan and I kind of go through what we're going through.
Yeah.
Dan?
All right. Well, I'm going to be very general for my first go-round on this Puff Puff Pass. But I have not one, not two, not even three, but like 4.5 armies that I am working on simultaneously because I have like some obsession, and without boring everybody, I wheel and deal a lot. I had a whole bunch of bloat that I needed to sell off. Made way more money than I expected selling it off. I was like, well, I've already finished my Custodes with a surplus. I've got all the Death Guard I need with a surplus. What's the most expensive army that I don't have a single model for? AdMech. Let's do it. And now I am 4 boxes of Cerberus Raiders away from having my AdMech done. So that's wild. And that's and some Corpuscari Electro Priests. I got 24 Fulgurite Electro Priests on a really good deal from Gabe, one of the bros. And some. So the money I was going to use for the Cerberus Raiders, I ended up getting 3 Onager Dune Crawlers for like way too cheap. So that's why I haven't gotten the Cerberus Raiders yet. Anyways, so I've got AdMech I'm almost done with. Death Guard I've finished. Custodes I've finished. Tyranids, I also love Tyranids and always have them on the back burner so I can play them like the brief windows they're good. So I picked up way too many Zoanthropes so I could finish the list that we're hinting at and haven't told you about yet. So I got a bunch of Zoanthropes, so my Tyranids are almost complete. Now, with the changes we're making, I need some Genestealer Cult add-ins. And because I love the army but hate hordes, and it's good right now, Mechanized Orcs. That's the next one I'm going to finish up. So that's been like I woke up out of the stasis all grumpy and hating 9th edition, and then the switch got flipped and I have gone crazy.
Gone all the way into the deep end?
Yeah, I mean, when I have arguably the 3 best armies to play in AdMech, Death Guard, and Custodes, and then I'm also like, well, orcs sound fun, let's mess with that. And Tyranids, let's keep going. Like, you know, you boys got a problem.
We all do at this point. And that's okay, we're here for each other.
Exactly.
So I am
worst support group ever. Just
yeah, we're the opposite of Alcoholics Anonymous. Like we all get together and just like brag about how terrible we are.
Dan, I know you have 4 armies, but I know you didn't mention Eldar. What's wrong with you? Let's go ahead and you should buy that too.
Okay, I have about like 1 standard. I've even played Tau. And I can't lie, I've also played and owned Eldar and Dark Eldar and Harlequins. But no, never again.
Right.
You played a Tau Dark, just so we're on the same page here.
Yeah, I don't believe I've ever played pure Eldar. I have played pure Dark Eldar at an event, but never pure Eldar. So
Tau was the lowest you could possibly go.
I was playing Tau when the Bark Star was popular, and Warcon and
everything else was broken too.
Yeah, when Taudar wasn't the most broken thing is when I played Taudar. So
yeah, okay.
Not justifying those actions. I'm just saying.
I have a question though. Being in the trap house and such, I have heard inklings of the Taunar. Since you said Taudar, it just brought it back to mind. The Taunar being good in the current meta, with an option that Tau players are going to try to go toward that big ugly beast. Is that something that you think might happen?
Yeah, I think the Taunar the Taunar went down like a solid couple of 100 points for no reason that I can discern. Because it also got better because the core rules now allow all Titanic to fall back and do the thing, whereas before the Taunar could not fall back and shoot.
Right.
So yeah, the Taunar is really freaking good right now. Now it does have the classic big unit problem of it can't kill like 1,000 models. But also, if your opponent has like a vehicle list and you have a town art, it's gonna get bad real fast for them.
Yeah.
So I think the town art is super, super competitive right now. Siegler thinks it's one of the 2 best Tau builds. I do not meddle with Tau, so I can't offer a highly educated opinion. But I think you're basically either doing like a breacher spam list with commanders and a small crisis bomb, or you're going town art.
Now, what if you did Taunar with a breacher spam? Because Taunar plus support is going to be like 1,500 points. So you can still probably fit, what, like 30 breachers?
More drone. I mean, yeah, you have like a 30 breachers, but like not spam. Spam's like 60.
True. I don't know. And that's something I don't really want to get into without one of our resident Tau players who are fun to talk with. But shield drones went up to 15 points per model. That's a big nerf. But the Taunar going down 200 something points compensates for it. So that's why like it still works pretty well. In addition to all the buffs like John mentioned. But yeah, long story short, Taunar is very nasty. Will just win certain games because of its type of firepower, and because it's cheaper and drones are still good. It should be able to function in most matchups.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Oh, that was it. I was just saying,
Okay.
yeah, I would be excited to be able to play that. option.
You own a town art, don't you?
I don't. I've always wanted a reason to,
Oh.
but of course, by the time I order it and like get it and all that stuff, it would probably have its
It would
time.
probably get nerfed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's reasonable. There is that Forge World book coming out sometime in the next soon. GW has given us literally no timeline other than early 9th edition.
Yeah.
So like one would hope that would mean August, but also it might mean like April because GW. Maybe it'll just come out when the app is done. Like,
I'm always just wary of resin models like that because not only will it take forever to get it, but also putting it together. Like, I
yeah.
can't imagine I'd have it ready for a tournament. Like, if it's not still good in 9 months, it's not worth me buying one now.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
not a terrible kit to build, though. Will and I built his together in an afternoon while watching like random YouTube rabbit hole stuff. Like, and so it's, as someone who has built a Fire Raptor and literally thrown Necron models against the wall, Town Art wasn't that bad.
Yeah. All right. Well, if I have a way of getting one quickly, that'd be a neat option. Anyway, sorry, that was a detour that I did not intend to take, but it did remind me that I'm interested in that build as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's what this episode specifically is, pretty much just chasing some rabbit holes and seeing how the conversation goes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But let's fall back a little bit and hear what Lennon has to say, his general hobby update. Jimmy mentioned it. Lennon is in a Warhammer trap house right now. So
Accurate. I actually moved this morning, / last night, into a new apartment. So I'm now living in the Art of War stream house, which makes things wonderfully convenient because I don't have to drive every time I would need to play a game of 40k. So now I just go upstairs, and that is probably going to make life pretty easy because I'm still working from home for like normal, boring adult stuff jobs. But honestly, no one cares about that. So
I
just
care.
get to
What
it,
is your
like,
current job? Is
I work for a university.
okay,
It's
good.
boring. It's not as exciting as Warhammer, I should say, because I'm sure someone will find a way to listen to this. So yeah, I have so much to paint right now that it is like low-key overwhelming. So I'm just trying to kind of get it done a little bit at a time. I am working on the Space Marines for Indominus. I really want to finish my Space Marine collection, just because I started Space Marines, when it was the best time to do so, like last September. But that means that I only really had like the tournament stuff painted. So I own like things that I had painted before 9th edition was basically like the Intercessors and the Leviathan Dreadnought and Chaplain Dreadnoughts. And obviously Chaplain Dreadnoughts don't exist, so that means that's even less stuff that I have effectively painted. And a bunch of characters. So I am just kind of working through the Indominus box right now. But I also have a full Plastic Sisters of Battle army, which I've made some progress on, but I kind of keep getting distracted by other projects. Not because I don't love the sisters, more so because we're trying to show off different armies on stream right now for Art of War. And we already have one painted Sisters of Battle army. It's not mine, and it doesn't have like all the units I would want. But like we have a painted Sisters army, so I knocked out my guard army before I took a break from Sisters to paint a full guard army. So I painted 12 guard vehicles and a bunch of infantry, and that took some time. And now I am responsible for painting the Space Marine parts of Indominus, so that is going to happen before I get done with the Sisters. But
I'm going to jump in real fast. Yep. If you guys haven't seen, Lennon's freaking paint jobs, specifically on vehicles, are awesome. Like, I really like, I noticed it with your Ridge Runners, John, and since then, it's just like, you got the touch. And your infantry look great, too. I'm not going to not say that, because I think your infantry look awesome. But, like, the vehicles, for a model that is easy to just base coat and then do a little bit of detail and call it done, like, you do a lot more than that, and I think it looks really good. Especially, like, I was watching one of the streams the other day and saw the Ridge Runners on the table, and I was just like, man, those look good.
Oh, thank you. I'm very happy with how all of the various Imperium style vehicles, like the Ridge Runners, the Rust, the Hellhounds, I'm very happy with how all of that came out. So like I've been getting a lot done, which is good. But I just kind of feel like I have so much to do because even like once I'm done with the Space Marines, I also have 40 Tempestus Scions that are like ready to paint because I bought them used and I just finished stripping them and cleaning them. So they're ready to get primed now, which is awesome because Scions are really cool. And again, I want to get them on stream, kind of show them off. But also it's yet another project that's not Sisters of Battle, which makes me a little bit sad that I'm going to keep borrowing sister armies to play when I would rather be playing with the army that I paid way too much money for.
Yeah. And I'm not helping this problem because I did convince Lennon to paint my Ridge Runners because I like his so much. And now that he's painting those and I'm getting ideas for Gene Stealer Cult, I'm like, hey, Lennon, I want it all to match. You want to hook me up? And he's like, no, go away. Too much stuff.
My specific answer was, ask me again when the Ridge Runners are done.
Yeah. Absolutely. But it's just, because the selfish part of me is like, Lennon, paint my stuff. It looks great. And then the friend part of me is like, dude, Lennon is drowning. I need to back off.
That's right. One thing though, I know that your Tyranids, Dan, are like the coconut crab scheme. How do you coconut crab a Ridge Runner? Is that not what you meant? Or
no, that's so. What Lennon and I kind of talked about, and what Lennon's doing for me is, I told him what the base colors were, which is a tan, a brown, and an orange, basically. Like, that's it for my Tyranids. Super easy. And then red for some stuff. So, without just doing the same paint scheme, because it wouldn't look good on vehicles, Lennon is doing a tan base color with a lot of oranges and I believe some browns and stuff too, but it's a lot of tan and orange to where the armies go together, but it's uniquely like a nice deserts themed Gene Stealer Cult army.
Yeah. I made sure to buy the same kind of paint that Smith was painting the coconut crab Tyranids with. So I went out and bought some Vallejo paint for the first time.
Yeah, which is a weird experience. I only have like 3 pots of Vallejo. I'm a Games Workshop paint like hoe, but the specific orange for the coconut crab scheme, Games Workshop doesn't make, and I don't like mixing paints to get that nice orange color because it's going to be inconsistent between batches. And then if someone else is matching it, it's even more inconsistent. So
not to mention that Games Workshop is inconsistent with its own batches of paint because like
honestly,
I used corn red like probably a year and a half ago, and then I had to buy a new pot because mine dried out. And the new Tyranids that I've been painting don't look anything like it. It's like a brighter red now than it used to be. Yeah. So it's weird.
Yeah. I remember when they changed the Games Workshop paint names to make it all like copyright friendly. They removed like Warlock purple and they said like, oh, just use Xerius purple. It's the exact same shade. 100% not the same shade. I have never been able to replicate the purple of my early Tyranids, which is fine because they were painted terribly. But like, if I was actually good at painting them, I would be really bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot going on right now. I'm really enjoying the Indominus parts of Space Marines, and I'm really excited for White Scars. I mean, Space Marines in general are pretty great right now. Like, no Space Marine player can complain for a while, like several years. You guys got a lot. So I'm really enjoying like writing lists for them and getting ready to play them and just trying to paint as much of these darn things as I can. But the Indominus models are super ornate, so I can't really rush them. They're
gotta
super
say,
high detail.
Real fast, I gotta say, that was such a smooth transition of topics from talking Tyranid paint scheme to Indomitus with no acknowledgement of changing topics. It took me a second. I was like, wait, what just happened? And I understand the train of thought because we're discussing painting, and that's what your next on your list is working on the Indomitus set and getting that painted up. But it was like, for a second, I was like, did I just like black out for a second? How did we get here?
I like how what Dan does when he's like, ooh, this is a really smooth transition.
Is
is
break
now
the
let's stop
transition.
everything. Break the transition.
It was too smooth. I had to call it out.
I am too smooth for Dan. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, exactly. Smooth face. Can't grow a real beard.
Oh wow, we took that in an insulting direction. It could have gone so many nice ways.
Transition to an insult.
Did you guys see how seamless that was?
Bunch of nerds. All right.
Yeah.
So Indominus box. We finally got the boxes.
You and Jimmy talk about that because I'm not playing either army and haven't gotten either, or haven't gotten.
You're gonna
guys,
play both in the next year.
Do I get to use our one F-bomb for the PG-13?
PG-13? Yeah, I didn't realize we were a PG-13 podcast.
Well, here I go.
Jimmy,
Fuck
go
you,
right
Dan.
the fuck ahead. Oh.
Dang it! It was too close together.
Why are we mad at Dan?
Oh, because he didn't buy Indominus.
Yeah, he really should have, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, he army hops so much, he's like, oh, let me just not buy the really great deal on the models that are going to be, getting the first two codexes of 9th edition. Guaranteed 100%. Smith is going to own both of those armies before the end of 2020.
Yeah, but then they'll also be gone before the end of 2020.
I drew a line in the sand for just an arbitrary reason, and I'm sticking to it.
I'm glad we have this recorded, because he just said he was sticking to it.
Okay.
I also acknowledge it's arbitrary, which means it can be thrown out the window, because there's no backing or basis for it.
It's just that, like, you played both Necrons and Space Marines in the last year, and like you had a really cool color scheme on your Space Marines. So I'm like, personally, I'm really like trying to get you back into them because I really like the color scheme you're going for.
Well,
I kind of want to see
they
it come
stopped
back up
that
again.
primer color.
Yeah, but I got a hookup on it.
Oh, ooh,
How do you get a hookup on an old, like, you better pull that plug quick, because I mean, whatever cans are left are going to be like dusty.
It's just knowing how to get stuff that people. Basically, there are some places that still have it that can't like advertise that they have it, basically, or won't. So it's just there for whenever I want to buy it.
Okay.
It's kind of weird and sketchy, but sure.
Whatever.
Dan's got some back alley deals for some primer.
Yeah.
5 armies. I haven't spent $1 out of my personal account.
Okay.
I go way too deep doing this crap.
Dan is the drug dealer of 40k. So
Honestly, he is.
one thing. Hold on. What was I saying? I don't remember.
We're talking about Indominus.
Yes, and let's just start by saying that for all of the problems that I like to point out about GW, the Indominus starter set is the love letter to the community. Just knowing that a transition of editions is difficult because not only do you have all these new rules, but you have a whole new set of codexes that are coming, so you kind of have an understanding, a grim realization that your army isn't necessarily going to be the best. At the very least, you're going to need to accommodate with new units, no matter what you're playing. And this starter set is probably the best that they've ever produced, because it has all of the newest units for both, like, or at least a ton of them, for both the Necrons and the Marine. And then a hardcover rulebook that is also limited edition art on the front. Like, whenever we had originally gotten into the game, Dan and I, and bought a starter, it comes with like a tiny pocket version of the rulebook, and it's like, you know, a little paper-bound thing.
Good old 6th edition.
Yeah, like, this is an absolutely fantastic way to just get back into the game, to get the rulebook, and even if you don't play Necrons, there's an incredible array of models that come in this set. And then, I mean, you could say even if you don't play Space Marines, but I mean, everybody plays Space Marines at some point, right? It's like the...
Accurate.
So, it's got a good thing for everybody, even if it just comes to the rulebook. We know a guy who bought it just for the rulebook, and then he just parted out the other 2 parts, which you can still sell for close to $100 a piece. The Necrons, maybe not so much, but I've seen people selling the Marine side alone for like $130, which, like, you basically have the Necrons for free at that point, because the rulebook would have cost you $60 to $70 anyway, so...
Yeah, they're selling, a lot of people are like spreading this out and scalping, which, you know, scalpers suck. So
they're always going to exist, though. You gotta expect it, but yeah, if you're a scalper, you're an asshole. Get out of here.
Exactly. But also like and subscribe. No. Yeah, I like that they like went back and made to order. It's like there's been like a lot of GW mistakes recently. Like the app launch was not the smoothest thing that I've ever personally witnessed. That would be Dan's ass when I was done beating him. But it's nice that the actual quality of the product is still up there.
And
because like
one thing I gotta say, I'm completely cutting you off right now.
Yep.
A lot of people were upset with Games Workshop promising buy as many boxes as you want, we'll have it. Then the Rona hit. Like, supply chains got screwed up. They had to scramble. They don't have the supply they expected. So once I thought about it in that context, which store owner basically like said that to me because I was being a douche, and he was like, "Well, think about it this way," and I was like, "You know what? That's a really good point." And the fact that they're doing the made to order to make up for it, when it was just going to be a one and done release, buy as many as you want, buy it now because it won't be here later. They're like, well, we don't have the supply right now, but if you can wait, you can still get it. We're going to do made to order so our supply can catch up and we'll still send it out to you. So I appreciate how they handled that in an imperfect situation.
Dan, you should just made to order one so that it's ready by the time you've decided to jump armies.
No.
I like the pause there. That was good.
We know it's coming.
Marines more than Necrons.
What? You like were so hyped on Necrons when they were the worst army in the game, and now it's like, yep, they're getting new models and new rules, and you're like, nah, I'm out.
I can understand Dan's problem with it, though, just because the hobby side, like, Dan talked so long about making the Rusted World Necrons, and then you made that dream reality, and then you sold them. Like, restarting that process from scratch, just from a hobby perspective, is probably just tiring.
Well, kind of, yes. But also, the reason I enjoyed the Rusted Necrons so much is because I was bringing life to just literally, like, destroyed models and, like, running with it. So, like, if I'm missing pieces, if an arm is broken, you put a little Nihilak Oxide and it looks intentional. I don't want to chop up these brand new beautiful models to do the Rusted scheme. Pristine models rusted out just doesn't look right. And most other Necron paint schemes either take way too much effort or just they look simple.
Yeah.
I don't want to put the effort in, and I don't want simple.
Oh, I think my neurothropes are here, guys. All right, confirmed, guys. That was my neurothrope delivery coming in, and as a Tyranid player, not having a new kit in like 10 years or some nonsense, getting new Tyranids in the mail is always an exciting experience. But speaking of the Indomitus set, I know, having put together all these models recently, I like both the Marines and the Necrons, the new portions that have been added by the kit. But One thing that I would have to say is that it's a push to build kit or whatever. What do they call it? Easy build, where it's a lot of just like
I
sockets.
think they call them easy to build.
Yeah, like they're all
Mhm.
mono posed because you're like sticking the sockets together. The arms are in a stuck portion, and it's like two pieces of a torso that you glue together.
Yeah.
That works really well for the Marines, of course, that are really bulky. There are a few points, like the dudes with the sword and shield. I don't know what they're called, but they have like a halo on their backpack.
The Blade Guard veterans, which I'm actually building literally right now.
Yeah, I just finished those probably like 45 minutes ago. Like in the course of this, actually, I was finishing my last one, so maybe 20 minutes or so. And the very last one, as I was pushing the backpack onto the torso, the peg was not going in all the way, and that's always like a nightmare because super glue is already in there, so like you have a limited amount of time to make that work. And my finger slipped a little bit and like pressed against the halo. It didn't break the halo off, but you can see like it's gotten white with stress at the connection point.
That always makes me nervous.
Yeah, like that's pointed out to me that if that does ever break, that's such a fine point of connection that it's going to be really hard to get that thing back together, which also means if this becomes a competitive part of the list, like there's an element of transport with pieces like that that are just stressful. Usually you don't have to worry about that with Marines too much. Like they're usually pretty bulky, but with some of the Necrons, the way that you have to piece them together, a few of them, the head and an arm are connected, and then you actually have to finagle it around the front part of the torso and then press it into the second part of the torso. Have you dealt with any of those yet, John?
I haven't built any Necrons. I actually, I only have Space Marines. I actually traded with Mr. Siegler. Mr. Siegler bought 4 boxes of Indomitus, and I bought 1, and then I traded him a Necron half for a Space Marine half, so I got double Space Marines, and he got 5 Necron halves.
Yeah, that's a lot of Necrons.
It's a lot of Necrons. I don't know what he's going to do with all that, but it's part of some evil tap plan or something.
Evil Xenos plan, as Siegler is known for.
As he's known for.
Well, 2 models that I had trouble with the Necrons, the Royal Warden. It's, I think, one of the HQ choices that goes on a 32mm base. And he's got what looks like, I don't remember the names of the weapons, but it's what an Immortal used to have. It has like 2...
Oh, the Gauss Blaster?
Yeah, it's like 2 guns on top of each other. It's like 2 barrels.
Mm-hmm. Double barrel.
And that guy, you have to... like once you put the torso together, for the most part, you have to put his head in, and then I don't know what happened, but he's got like hydraulics on his neck, and the hydraulics wouldn't fit where they were supposed to, and like literally were like perking off of his chin, so I had to cut them short and then push them back, and one of them broke off, so I had to grab a piece of a pair of tweezers and like kind of finagle it back, but I don't know, that was just weird. So what I would say is Necrons, of course, they're gangly. So there's only so much you can do as a modeler. But whenever you mix that with the easy build, push to fit type style, the pegs are a lot of the time thicker than the like joints of the arm and things like that. So you have to be really careful when you're pushing them together how much pressure it actually takes to get the pegs in. A majority of this kit, I've actually just made a habit of cutting the pegs to about half their size so that I don't have to actually push it all the way in. Like you use the glue and then it just like goes in a millimeter and then it's good enough. Like I cut off most of the peg for each of the models.
Yeah, that's what I do. I do that with easy build.
There he goes again.
The easy builds are meant to be built without glue. Like theoretically you could build them without glue. You know, obviously long term you would rather not, but theoretically like you could. And I find that it's so much easier to just remove the pegs and just glue the darn things. It's like we're gonna glue them anyway, right? Like I don't think any like hobbyist is going to just not glue them. So I have found that it's easier to just cut them off entirely. That's what I normally do, at least.
Yeah, that's what I started doing. But that was just the one observation. Otherwise, though, like absolutely great models, great poses. So many really cool hero-style choices. Like, this is a set, by the time I was done putting it together, I'm super excited to paint them. I, of course, have a lot of other things that are in front of that, because I'm painting some stuff for Dan and things. But this is the hype I needed for the new edition. I really appreciated the box set for all that.
Oh, these models are awesome. I am likewise extremely excited to get them like painted, get them ready to go, get them on the table. Just the models, they're just beautiful. Like honestly, like I remember when like starter set models were like supposed to be just like really plain and generic. Like the old like Assault on Black Breach Terminators, which are basically just like just posed like in the most generic way possible, and like have no variety and no personality at all. And like you could always recognize like those are the Assault on Black Breach Space Marines. You can tell because they have literally nothing on them.
It was that way for all of the Stormcast stuff that you would get. It's almost like, so of course these are all new models, right? Like the ones from the Space Marine sets.
Yeah.
So they may even have a situation where, similar to the Age of Sigmar starters, in that situation you would buy Stormcast models and they would have a hammer and a shield, and it was easy build. That was the only option you would get. But it turns out the most optimized version of the book was that same model, but with 2 hammers instead of a hammer and a shield. So you would have a ton of those from starters, and it was the cheapest thing to get. But then it was literally not usable if you were trying to be competitive. This seems a lot more... Like, there are even some characters in this that have all of their options. Like the same options that you would get if you bought them in a set. Like the Necron Warriors have both gun options, I believe.
That's like honestly really cool. It's like that makes me think that like that is going to be the actual Necron Warrior kit.
Yeah, and it's just clearly more value than what we've gotten from previous starter sets. Like this is again just the most valuable starter set, I believe, with what you get from the rulebook and from both sets of brand new models. It seems much more efficient to just buy multiple portions of this set than trying to piece out all their new options.
I've been raving about it constantly. And even to Jimmy, who I know Jimmy doesn't have his full olfactory senses, but the box smells so good. And like the first time you open, like, oh man, it's like a well-loved like favorite bookstore, like so crisp. Like it legitimately, the box smells amazing, and I love it. Like I still have mine closed. Like I like try not to leave it open so I can like get the last couple whiffs out. Oh man, it's so good. Like I really love this box, and I love how much was in it. It's like considering how much like I spent. Like I paid money for one box, and I got 2 halves. And sure, I traded to get double up the Space Marine half, but like, ooh, there's so much in it. Like it's gonna take me forever to get this all painted, but like all the models are super detailed, super sharp looking. I'm really looking forward to like kind of doing some conversions with the extra characters. Just because they're all posed really well, and again, like the ornate details on like the shields, the halos, like even like the bodies is just super exciting for me.
Yeah, and that was one other thing I was excited about. So many characters with shields.
I love
really
storm.
Yeah, it's like custodes or whatever. Like I felt like they always had the coolest shields. They're very clearly built around like a kind of like a Romanesque theme, and now we have that very strong presence with normal Space Marines. Like the shields are just very ornate as well.
I love how big they are because like certain Space Marine models like have gotten cool storm shields, but also like everyone's Smash Captain that's made out of a Vanguard veteran. Like I'm sorry, but like that shield is tiny. These things are huge.
Yeah, the most effective shield is the tiny one that barely covers anything.
No, it's big shields. Big shield time.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, what do you think of the Indomitus box that you've not done anything with yet?
I think that I literally haven't seen a model in person yet. No, that's not true. I did. Sorry, I'm an idiot. They look cool. I really like the rulebook. That's all I got.
Yeah, well, you're surely going to become more acquainted with these models tomorrow because another talking point. We've got a little practice thing set up. Of course, John, having just moved, is in an entirely different city. But Dan and I and some other of the Brohammer lads are going to be playing some games of 40k. The goal tomorrow is to each get 2 games in, right?
Yeah, that's a very optimistic goal because it's us.
Yeah.
We do get distracted by
I'm gonna
literally
end up
everything.
Being drunk by 5 p.m. We're gonna order pizza and I'm gonna watch anime while you guys play in the other room.
Yes. But, so the idea is, Will and Dan Monsall, both, we've had Dan on the show, both of whom have been on the show, with us, are coming over. Will is bringing Tau, Dan is bringing White Scars, and probably also his Eldar, and I think Will actually might be bringing his Guard. Anyways, so they're bringing 4 armies, and then Jimmy is gonna bring Tyranids, I assume.
Yeah, the Tyranid's cool. That's the only thing that I have written. So that's
okay. Yeah, that. And I am going to have Custodes and Death Guard ready to play. Probably just going to play Custodes, but who knows, because I do love Chaos. But yeah, so next time we talk, we will be able to tell you guys how all of those armies played, hopefully, assuming we get enough games in. But at least Custodes, Tau, and White Scars and Tyranids, I want to be able to talk about those. That means we all played at least once.
Yeah, and this Tyranids build is something that I've been able to play a portion of before, which is good because I just have a problem with, like, of course playing an entirely new army is going to be confusing. But the new part is the Zoanthropes, which was a thing before, right? It was the Zoanthrope bomb. I think it came up in Australia at some point. People started using it over here, where you just play 3 units.
I think Nick Rose took it to the then ETC and had a good amount of success with it. I want to say that was the year that the USA won the ETC. It's had some fringe play, especially in team events, but never really broke through for singles play.
Yeah, and I thought that there was something that happened in the middle of things that kind of made it less efficient, like a change to something that operates in the psychic phase or something. I don't remember.
I don't think it ever got a nerf that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I don't think it was a direct nerf. I just thought there was something about the stages of the game that made it not interact the same way.
I think more it was the lethality in 8th edition and style of lists just would either kill it or not care about it. Unless you're fighting against elite armies, vehicles, etc. There were just better options for Tyranids 9 times out of 10. Or Tyranid cult. You gotta basically have both. But there's kind of like just, you're looking at it and it's like, I could bring that, but then I can just do this instead. Like, I remember a few months ago, you and I were talking about it, Jimmy, because I know you like the Brain Boys. So we had talked about it as a potential option, and I think we moved away because the triple exo Hive Guard was just a better use of the Tyranids detachment. Yeah. Or even double exo, or even single exo with a bunch of infantry. Like, that detachment just functioned better for what 8th edition Tyranids needed. But now, because Hive Guard are more expensive, Zoanthropes went up a little bit, not a lot, and Death Guard, Custodes, and vehicle lists with a bunch of transports are really strong right now. The meta shifted and points adjustments happen to where Zoanthropes are just primed to be in a good position.
Yeah. Well, so mine aren't primed yet. They're all just still primed. Never mind. So, hey-yo. One thing, just for context for anybody who may not know, the Zoanthropes are like the psychic Tyranid units. And they come in units of, 3 to 6. And they're
That's
able...
correct.
Yeah, they're able to cast 1 ability per turn, and then if they have 4 or more, they cast 2 abilities. Mm-hmm. And then if they are a unit of 6, their smite automatically becomes 2d3 instead of 1d3 or something like that.
All accurate.
Yeah, if they have a stratagem, which is, I don't remember, 1 or 2, it's Psychic Onslaught is what it's called. Mm-hmm. 1 or 2 CP, and it says that if you have a unit of Neurothropes that has at least 3 Neurothropes,
yeah,
right? Or is it at least 4?
3.
At least 3 Neurothropes in the unit.
And then it has 2 other such units, is the wording of it. So you have to have 3 units that are at least 3, and they all have to be within a certain number of inches of each other. You then choose a target point within 18 inches of the target unit, Zoanthrope unit, and then none of them can cast psychic powers for the turn, but it basically just does a bomb of damage to everything around it. You roll D6 for each unit, including allies, I believe. Is it allies that can be hit?
Yeah.
Or is it just enemies?
Any unit, ally, friendly or enemy within 3 inches of that point.
Yeah. But
roll
like,
for.
yeah, and then you do 3d3 damage if you roll a 4 or higher, and it has modifiers based on if it's a character or a unit of 10 or more. So, yeah, it's kind of like the Necron bomb of the same type, where it's like 3 prerequisite units. If you have them all there, they can like just explode all over the target area, and you have to roll a d6 for each. But they have the option of casting 2 psychic powers per turn, or doing that, so it really adds a lot of versatility. But in this current meta, where it's all about controlling portions of the board, they also have a 3-up invulnerable save, and then Neurothropes, when they cast Smite, they also give wounds back to nearby Zoanthrope units, which would normally include themselves, but when you play Zoanthropes, you can actually heal partially wounded Zoanthropes as well. So, like, there's a lot of really interesting interaction, and this is, like, old rules for an older unit that now has coming into its own in this, like, new objective control type game.
Yeah. And they get a 6-up Feel No Pain if you're Leviathan, which 3-up involves 6-up Feel No Pain.
The short rest. I think they really benefited from the shorter table ledge, as well as relatively modest point increases. They increased less than the average unit. But really just the fact that now everyone wants to get in the center. There's a general increase in elite armies right now. Hordes are still very viable, possibly even better. But quite a few of the good armies right now are elite, like Custodians and Death Guard and Atomic. None of those are real body heavy lists. So there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with them, and then the board is shorter, so you're more likely to like start smiting people early.
Yeah, and if we talk about secondary objectives, sorry, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say that it gives Tyranids like an actually durable unit.
Yeah,
which they normally don't have.
With a quick read through of secondary objectives, I don't know at this point what people are choosing most often, but there is one that there are a few of the psychic type objectives. Basically, units take actions now to be able to secure points throughout the game, and one of them is basically casting a psychic action when you're near the center of the board. And it seems like these guys would be able to pull that off if for some reason they become your win condition. Is that an option that you've considered? Like, is that kind of overstating the power of that secondary? Because I know some don't seem like they'd really be viable. Is that something that they're able to do?
No, that secondary is really good. That secondary is really good for this kind of list. I actually used, in a game I played a couple nights ago, I played Zoanthropes, and I took Psychic Ritual, which is the secondary you're referring to, and I did max it by turn 3. Just because with the Neurothrope there to reroll ones, it's very reliable to get a good cast off with them.
Yeah.
So I had no problem. I had no problem passing that psychic power right in the middle of the board, and very quickly accrued some nice points for myself.
Okay. Yeah, and it's nice to have something reliable. Like a 3-up invul save is very reliable. So just being able to send them to the center of the board, you have other threats that they need to worry about. They don't deal with those threats just to try to deny you a secondary, and then you're also that durable. Like, it is a win condition that you can really rely on, unless you're going up against something that's going to clearly...
Yeah, it was nice to have have a unit with invuln saves, just because Tyranids are not usually in that boat, especially not as such a strong one as a 3-up invuln. So they're very fun to play with. I want to keep playing around with them to decide how competitive they are, but they're definitely a good choice. So we'll just see how close to top tier they end up being.
Yeah.
Tyranids do still have some play, which is a wonderful revelation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who are worried about it, including myself.
I'm excited for this list being how I learn the game, while also trying to build up what I think will be a more long-term competitive option in the Marines. Just because I'm already familiar with a lot of this stuff, so like learning the game as it is now. Yeah, and then if it's competitive, that's a plus. But then I can just get it rolling tomorrow after having just talked about it earlier this week. That's just a really nice feeling.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Let's see that. I think that's all of the Indomitus stuff. What else we got?
Well, there's a lot of things we can talk about. I have no idea how long we've been going and what you guys feel like talking about. But I actually had a specific example of an abstract concept I wanted to discuss.
Okay, those words on their own mean nothing, so continue.
That sentence was fairly abstract. You might say.
Yes, it was. So, in general, I have a philosophy when I'm writing a list or when I'm strategizing a list of, based off of when I played Magic the Gathering. If I drew a card that wasn't mana in Magic the Gathering, and I was like, crap, I wish I didn't draw that, it was out of the deck. Because that means it wasn't necessary to win, and it was detrimental to my chance at winning. So, when I'm writing a list, if I have something and I'm just like, this doesn't contribute what I need, this isn't doing what I need, then should it be in the list? Specific example of this is the Dread Host versus the, and I always get this wrong, so I need to look again.
You're going to go Shadow Keepers or what?
Shadow Keepers. Dread Host versus Shadow Keepers. So, Dread Host, their stratagem is when a unit deep strikes, you can roll 3d6, take the two highest for the charge. For the Shadow Keepers, their stratagem is when one of your Dread Host units is targeted by an attack, that weapon, or I think it's the rest of the phase even, attacks against that unit have -1 strength.
Yep.
So my philosophy is, while Dread Host has potential to be very strong, it shoehorns you into, if I don't deep strike a unit, I will not get any use out of this stratagem. And I really need to deep strike 3 units, potentially the Telemon buffed up, to get rerolls on the charge to make it worth it. Because if I fail those charges, it wasn't worth it.
Is this a Custodes thing?
Yeah, it's Custodes specific.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Because we went from Magic the Gathering to words I didn't understand, and I was like,
yeah,
oh,
we're getting very abstract here.
Yes. Sorry. It's from the new Custodes rules from the Psychic Awakening, War of the Spider.
Okay.
That came out during 9th edition in Rona, so we probably just haven't talked about it as much as other stuff. Anyways, it's their custom sets or custom traits or whatever. So anyways, the unique stratagems, to me, I prefer Shadow Keepers because in any given game, I will use that stratagem at least once, unless I am steamrolling so much that it doesn't matter. For Dread Host, I have to make a pregame decision to either use this buff or not. And then I get it once, maybe twice, if I stagger my deep strikes. And that's it. So I have 2 opportunities to just not ever use Dread Host. And then with Shadow Keepers, every game I will be using that buff at least once. So to me, Shadow Keepers is the go-to because I will always use the buff. So that's, I guess, my thought process and when I'm making a decision in list building. And I'm curious kind of what your guys' thoughts are on that, if you think I'm looking at it right. And I mean, Dread Host, to backpedal a little bit, Dread Host is incredibly powerful, and if your entire list strategy is built around that stratagem, then obviously you're going to take that stratagem. But if your strategy isn't specifically built to use that rule, but it's like, I've got Terminators, I'm going to deep strike them, and I can do this buff, like, you're not building your entire strategy around it, it's not worth it, in my opinion.
I do generally agree with that thought process. I use the same for my sisters, where I specifically go all Bloody Rose instead of Valorous Heart. Because Valorous Heart gives you that option, that ability to ignore AP1 and AP2. But there are just so many armies that doesn't matter against. Like Custodes, they just don't have AP2, like other than their like combat knives that are like optional things. But like all their guns are AP1, all their melee is AP3. Death Guard is like a bunch of AP dash and then a bunch of AP3 and 4. And like a little bit of AP1, but like Space Marines, like outside of certain doctrines, they have a lot of AP1 and then they get up to a lot of AP like very high AP stuff. In certain doctrines, they'll have AP2 as well, but like it's so situational that that'll matter. But like for me, Bloody Rose always matters because you're just so good in combat that like, every game I'm either in combat or my opponent is trying to hide from my close combat. And Valorous Heart, there's no reason to hide from that close combat. Like I'll go charge Valorous Heart Sisters all day. Like I don't care. Like what are they going to do? They're going to slap me with like a 1 or 2 attacks per mod left strength 3 AP dash. I'll take 3 attacks at strength 4 AP1 with +1 wound every day of the week.
Yeah. And even for Tyranids, going Leviathan to get the 6-up Film of Pain, you will literally always use. But then if you were going with a bunch of Exocrines and Hive Guard, Leviathan isn't nearly as valuable as Kronos and Kraken when you're going with melee. Like there's specific examples of when, like, yes, it would be cool to have a 6-up Film of Pain on my Gene Stealers, but I think I would rather get there instead of just survive a little bit because they're not going to do anything.
Yeah. Sometimes it just sounds really good, though. Like, Leviathan on its own is not good unless you have... It's not good as a first line of defense, is what I'd say. Like, I've even tried to play Leviathan with Horde armies, and it's like, oh, okay, having, 120 bodies and then they all have a 6-up save sounds pretty good, but, like, in practice, you're just rolling a shit ton of dice and not really getting much out of it. But in this situation, it's like, all right, I already had to fail a 3-up. Now, a 6-up is a last-ditch effort, but a 6-up on every wound that got through the 3-up somehow seems more valuable. You know what I mean?
Especially multi-wound models, because if they do the exact like damage 3 into a 3-wound model, I forget how you get to the number or anything, but basically the 6-up Feeling of Pain makes you 50% more survivable against the exact damage kill shot.
Also, it just adds to what the list is trying to do. It's basically like, this list is designed to survive by stacking buffs. It's not just designed to cross the board or designed to tie up an opponent and kill them. And then at that point, you're like, oh, I'm taking Leviathan just to see if they can hold out a little longer. Like, this is literally, they're going to stay in the middle of the board, and Leviathan just supports that. Where you're staying in the middle of the board, okay, this is upping my percentage, even by the smallest amount, that they're going to finish that job well.
Yeah. It's just like, it's interesting because like I don't think it's like if you compare it to other like chapter tactics from like other factions, like none of the Tyranid ones are honestly that impressive, but it is really nice to have some kind of defense in there, even if it is a situational 1/3 of the Iron Hand tactic.
Yeah, it's just doing what you can is basic. It's the best example of doing what you can with what you can.
Exactly. And I think part of like the bigger conversation is understanding the efficiency of the choice you're making and applying it to the list. So like, yeah, like you're not taking Tyranids because of Leviathan. It's not good enough to justify, oh yeah, I'm taking Tyranids because of this. However, you've already made the decision, this is my list, what is the most efficient way to support this? In Magic the Gathering again, do I draw this card and go, cool, that's what I needed, or do I draw this card and go, why is this in my deck? So it's the same. It's kind of the same theory of like, because originally I was going to do Kronos and splash some stuff with my Neurothropes, but as I was thinking about it, it's like, well, now I'm diluting both. I don't have the firepower saturation for Kronos, and I don't have the Leviathan to help the the Zoanthrope stay alive. So I've diluted both of them. I'm not getting maximum efficiency out of either of them.
Yeah. And then efficiency also comes from the scope of the meta, because it's even the situation where it's like, hey, I'm going to play, sticking with the Tyranids examples, the Behemoth, where it is Behemoth that gets to reroll charge rolls, right?
That's correct.
Where it's like, okay, I'm going to play that, and then there was a new set of abilities and relics from their Psychic Awakening that said that you can roll 3d6 instead of 2d6 when charging if certain parameters were met. So it's like, okay, now you're mixing those two together, and now you got a rerollable 3d6 plus 1 because of adrenal glands. You have to roll an 8 on a rerollable 3d6. Like, you're optimizing what you're able to do, but then at the same time you have to think in the scope of the meta, like, is that gonna stand out to an Overwatch, and then taking that even to a more meta example, the Taunar in 8th edition became popular because the Knight meta became so popular. But whenever Knights weren't as good anymore, it's like you're not going to see that option as much because the list is no longer based on efficiency of what you're going to face. Where it's like, you need to make sure that it's going to be an important matchup every single time. The 3 that you play in an RTT or the 5 or 6 that you play at a GT, is the Taunar going to be able to stand up every time? Are you going to fight Knights most of those matches, or are you just going to get like wiped off the table by what are the dudes that destroy things really fast? The Marines, the yellow ones. I don't remember.
Oh, the Imperial Fist Alpha Strike list.
Yeah, just like absolutely remove Titanic stuff. So yeah, I don't know, like efficiency like that, where you build a list and you're like, yeah, this could face this and this and this very easily, and then the meta shifts. It's like, all right, you also have to consider your stratagems and stuff compared to what you're going to face most often.
Yeah. So, kind of to summarize, it's at any given point, you need to be a little bit fluid in your list design and reevaluate your decisions on what you're taking, because the meta is constantly changing as people create new things, and you always want to keep that little check of, is this going to do what I need it to do, or is there a better option?
Yeah.
And like that can be something literally as small as on your Tech Priest Manipulus, if you go with the single shot heavy weapon, or if you go with the little flamer. If I think I'm going to be wanting to stay at that 18-inch range and shoot stuff with a single shot flat 3 damage, like depending on if I'm fighting Custodes, if Death Guard are popular, like flat 3 damage is going to be great. But if I'm fighting against stuff that wants to get in my face and charge, the flamer is probably better. So it's literally a 0-point upgrade, but I'm going to make that decision based on what the meta around me tells me to do.
Yeah. We also play just a really hyper game, is what I would say. Where, like, the meta of this game is more hyper than any other game that I've ever been a part of. And that's in part because the community is so huge. There's always new stuff being discovered. But also, Games Workshop is the only company that I know that, like, actively changes the rules of the game, like, every 2 months on a schedule. Like, so, I mean, we don't have a new Tyranids Codex, and yet we're talking about a Tyranids build that has never been done before. Where you have, like, the Leviathan Neurothropes, like, that's mixed with Ridge Runners, like that. It's interesting that, yeah, of course, the climate of the game has changed, but what becomes important or what becomes really good is changing all the time, unlike any other game.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely agree on that.
Which is expensive to maintain if you chase the meta, but it keeps it from ever getting very stale.
Yeah.
So
it also really separates the players that are good and great, where it's like there's a new level of adaptation, and there's a lot to be said for practice in between tournaments, because like one tournament to another, you'll have one list that is undefeatable, and then the next tournament in 3 weeks that's not even going to be a contender. Like it just changes so rapidly.
Yeah. But I realize now we started at like 6:30 and it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So,
looking at the time, it looks like we're a little over an hour at this point based on the recording that we've done. So, good place to stop.
That's right. I just love hearing your voice.
Ooh.
I could definitely keep talking because of how hype I've been, but I don't know that listeners even made it this far, let alone want to go farther. So, we'll be able to talk more next week.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much to everyone who did make it this far.
Yeah, if you made it, you're awesome, and we appreciate it.
Indeed, we do.
Have a wonderful night, guys. Goodbye.
See you.
Bye.